Well, hey everybody, Sharon Caddy here with CFCAO, and it is time to introduce to you our newest honorary member. And I love doing these interviews. And today I'm so happy to finally have an honorary member from Ottawa, Lisa Aucoin. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to receive this honor and to be a part of the organization.
Well, congratulations. You know, there are a number, as we look through the list, we've had some pretty interesting and diverse people that have done different accomplishments in their time on the field, off the field, coaching, and post cheer. Um, you really embody, if we look at what we look for in an honorary member, you really kind of check the list.
Oh, that's so nice of you to say.
Very impressive. Can you take us back now, Ottawa Redblacks? Can you take us back
Mhm.
to your start as being involved with CFL cheerleading?
Of course, of course. So I can't really talk about the start of CFL cheerleading without mentioning that I grew up as a little girl cheering in our local football organization,
Oh,
the NCAFA, for the Orleans Bengals as an elementary school student. And that's really where I got my foundation as both an athlete and as a young coach. I started coaching at the age of 14
wow.
and, really, cheerleading, game cheering is really how I got my start. And, sadly, when I was coming up through the ranks, I was in the era where the CFL had been on pause in Ottawa. So I never actually had a chance to cheer myself
Mhm.
because the year that it came back is the year that I ended up going to North Carolina. So I
Wow.
completely missed the window. But that being said, I realized very early on, being a part of this sport, that my opportunities were always going to be greater as a coach. I came up at a time where there just, weren't as many opportunities. We were building the opportunities as we go. We had so many different, ownerships in Ottawa, and
Yes.
the team had been a little volatile for a couple of years. And while I'd always loved it and had hoped to do it, the math did just not math for me. And so I got lucky. I ended up while I was in university, Jeff Hunt, who was one of our inaugural owners in
Mhm.
our ownership group through OSEG, he had asked me to do a cheerleading team for his hockey team, the Ottawa
Oh,
67s,
yeah.
who, he was doing some remarkable things with junior hockey back then. And, my dad at the time, he had cancer and it was
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
bad. And, for me, this was an opportunity to have time with my dad. Friday night games, Sunday afternoon games. And so I built the Ice Girls program based off the San Diego Gulls Girls, if you can believe it. And
Wow.
years later, my husband is from San Diego. So, like, such a twist of fate there. Um, but when the CFL returned to Ottawa, Jeff reached out and just sort of said, "Hey, like we want to build this, and we would love for you to do it. We'd like it to have a certain look and to meet a certain standard." And I had to be very honest with him. This was, 12 years ago now, and
Yeah.
I was pursuing some other goals. I was trying to win my first world championship
Wow.
with the all-star team I was coaching. And so I said to him, "You know what? I can do it. I can build a leadership development program for you. I can oversee it. I can train the staff. I can be at games, but it's going to look a little different." And, thank God for his belief in me and the opportunity he gave me. And we've been able to to build the program into what it is today.
Amazing. So, coming from when you were at your youngest cheerleading, so when you were a kid, around what era are we talking? What year were you looking at then?
Oh my goodness. Like I would have been in fifth or sixth grade.
Yeah.
And very young, signed up for the team at the mall, and I
Yeah.
did cheerleading all the way through. I cheered for my local football club. I then started my own nonprofit organization at the age of 16 and ran it for 5 years. I cheered in high school. I founded the co-ed program at the University of Ottawa. I cheered there. So I always cheered myself throughout the entire time I was also coaching. But like I said, I missed that CFL window in Ottawa. I was so unlucky.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Just because as I look back, and many of us, I mean, I'm way older than you, but But looking over the years, we've seen a real evolution in the sport. We've really
Hmm.
seen an evolution from, I mean, it's always been important. It's always, some of it's retained, but we've seen a real evolution into the athlete, to it being more and more of a sport in addition to what we already were. When you started with Ottawa, um, was it cheer and dance, or was it cheer mainly at the time?
No, so it has always been cheer and dance. So, a fun fact about me is that my husband is also a cheerleader.
Oh, wow.
So, he cheered at the University of Louisville, which is like a multi-time national champion powerhouse program. And they are also red and black in colors. And, they had this phenomenal, cheerleading team and this amazing dance team. And so, when they wanted to bring cheerleading, back. And when the CFL was coming back, we had conversations about what we wanted it to look like. And we wanted to honor that growth and that progress and that athleticism. Cheerleading now is a provisional Olympic sport, and I had the honor to
Yeah.
be, I was a global ambassador at the Pyeongchang Olympics, which was like the opportunity of a lifetime. And so, we wanted to kind of follow in the footsteps. So, a big part of our program is actually modeled after the University of Louisville Cardinals, because, that was a very big influence in my life and certainly my husband's journey. So we have right now it's all girl. It has been co-ed in the past.
Mhm.
The pandemic has, it really affected our ability to have, guys because when contact sports were, they were heavily monitored in Ontario during the pandemic. A lot of the younger males took to other activities. And so Ottawa's rebuilding its co-ed presence, and we're hopeful that one day we'll also have a co-ed team.
Mhm.
But we've always had a cheerleading team, and then we've had a dance team, and they have two very different looks. They have two different functions, but they're all part of one program.
That's exciting. Do you remember when that first year you were leading that team, and the first time they took to the field? I mean, you're obviously a CFL fan. What did that mean to you? Like, what was that like?
It felt like coming home.
Oh.
Like I'm a very competitive coach. So in the all-star world, I'm an eight-time world champion coach. And because of my work on that side of the industry, I think sometimes people find it hard to believe that I can be so passionate about this facet where it's, entertainment, athleticism, but, also that sport. But this is the cheerleading that I fell in love with. I was a little girl who tried everything: ballet, rhythmic gymnastics, Girl Guides, swimming, baseball, soccer, you name it. And with the day I found cheerleading, I've never loved it. Has really been the love of my life. I've never loved anything as much as I've loved this in terms of the activities I've participated in. So, to be in my home city, to build a program that gives back so much to our community, to have a team that acts as ambassadors and role models, it means a lot to me. When we were speaking earlier, I referenced I travel quite a bit for my
Yeah.
work. And so having this connection to home, especially at this stage in my life, has just been so wonderful. I love being, at TD Place. I love our nation. We have some of the most amazing fans, and what they've built in such a short amount of time is just it's so impressive, and I'm so proud to be a part of it.
And can I say, Ottawa hosts a mean Grey Cup. I'm honestly one of I love them all. I go pretty much every year. That one, oh, I think the last one I went to in Ottawa was the last one with Shania Twain was doing the halftime show, and it was
Yes.
freezing cold, and it was as Canadian an event as I've ever experienced in my life. And the people were all happy, and it was just alive. It was fabulous.
When she came in on the little
Dog
dog
sled.
sled, it was just, I my first Grey Cup, the first year we were in Vancouver,
Mhm.
and I'll never forget her to me. Just being so impressed by the fact that it's this incredible display of Canada from
Yeah.
coast to coast, all the cities, all the colors. Even when the cheer teams come out and everyone has their different palms, and to be able to capture that feeling at home. We went from our performances, which were in the Aberdeen Pavilion, and it really felt like a little log cabin, like they cozied it
Mm.
up. And we literally went from there to on field, and it was like this snow globe of a game. And then all of a
Was.
sudden Shania comes in this all pink outfit, and it was just, yeah, I'll never forget it.
That was a memorable one to me, aside from the fact that I couldn't feel my feet by the end of the game because it was really cold.
We were a little upset. We wanted to play in that game that year, and it didn't happen for us. But you know what? It was still such a great cup, and
Oh,
like
yeah.
such a wonderful, great cup, and just great memories.
Well, and especially being the nation's capital and everything else, and that the CFL, like you said, is such a Canadian. There's not, to me, there is no event we do more Canadian than that. Everyone comes from all over, no matter what teams are playing, everyone's wearing their colors, everybody's
Hmm.
nice to each other. I've never seen unpleasantries. And from the cheer perspective, I go, I'm wearing my CFCAO sweatshirt, and I see someone else, and I don't know who they are and where they're from, and I run over and talk to them. And it's just such a unifying event and such a unifying group to be part of, to be one of the cheer alumni, because we are kind of a very unique group to belong to.
It is. And this year, you guys did your first performances, which
Yeah.
was really inspirational for my team because we've always looked at the relationships. I made the decision very early on that we would include all chapters of the CFL in our Redblacks alumni.
Hmm.
And, we call our group like the Ottawa CFL alumni group so that it can be
Yeah.
inclusive of all generations. And one of the things that I've told some of our Redblacks and Renegades alumni is, I love that you model the kind of lives I hope that my athletes can have. They're ambitious, they're phenomenal mothers, they're active in their community, they've got amazing careers. But what I really love is they've maintained their friendships through this bond that they've
Yes.
shared. And when you can see that every year, I always tell my girls, when you make this program, there won't be a room you can't walk into and command. There won't be a relationship you can't thrive in. There won't be a conflict you can't manage. But even more than that, I try to stress to them, you're meeting your best friends for life. These are the women that are going to stand by you through your life milestones, your triumphs and your trials. And, to see that in all of our alumni, and especially at Grey Cup, seeing all of the alumni from all the teams, it makes you realize what a rewarding and unique privilege this is.
Yeah, it really is. Just meeting some, and it's interesting. I mean, I ran up to one lady at the Vancouver Grey Cup, and she had on the
Mhm.
sweatshirt and introduced myself, and she was oh, she looked fabulous. And I said, "So what years did you cheer?" Because I'm thinking I'm an old timer. I cheered from 1983 to 85. And she
Mhm.
goes, "Oh, I cheered from 1959 to 1962." And I thought, "Oh, wow."
Oh, that's
Wow, I just
incredible.
thought that's remarkable. And she was so into everything, and she was introducing me to other ladies that she had just met. And it's such an amazing, amazing sisterhood and something cool to be a part of. And like you said, though, cheerleading at every level. I mean, I was involved in high school. My daughter, like especially one, was involved in the competitive cheer that we see that you are a part of,
Mhm.
and university cheerleading. It really is such a great thing to belong to from many levels. It's physical, it's a sport, but it also builds such great character and such great interpersonal skills that it's so hard to describe to someone who doesn't understand what it's like to be part of something like that.
100%. We perform in front of thousands of fans every single week, and you have to be as relatable to the 6-year-old who is attending their first game as the 86-year-old who's been coming for a
Yes.
lifetime. And I think that that's where, our athletes really get to see, something that's unique and special is what brings all of these people together despite differences in ages and occupations and, all these other things is their love of this team and the pride that they take into it. And that's the beauty of sport is, I think what I love more than anything is the opportunity to teach life lessons through sport. And that's why our program is a leadership development program. That's probably one of the reasons why you put your daughter in
Mhm.
competitive cheer and why you remain involved in the organization to this day
Yeah,
is it's just there's nothing quite like it that not just brings people together but prepares them for life.
it's true. Now, you have to share with everyone because you've mentioned, we talked about you traveling the world and you've kind of alluded, but tell us what you do now.
Oh, so I'm so lucky. I'm living the dream. So I travel and teach cheerleading about 300 days a year. I own two international companies, Spring CDT, which is an international instructional company. We, do choreography, skills camps, clinics, team coaching. We also host educational conferences and support conferences all over the world. And then my second company is Bloom Agency, which is a female-driven company to create opportunities for women and in our sport. Cheerleading is 98% female, and I wanted to create a company to help pave the way for more opportunities for young women, who wanted to make this a career like I have.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious because when all over the world, and you mentioned 40 something, 40 some odd countries,
44.
44
Yes,
countries. When you
44.
started with your business and reaching out into these countries, was cheerleading kind of a brand new thing, some of the places you went?
Yeah, so we were lucky in the sense that, everything really started out of, friendships or organic relationships. And, in some things that happened is, we had an athlete from Canada move to Australia, and then there's an
Oh,
invitation. I had an athlete from Australia go home to Japan. I just got back from Japan for the first time a few weeks ago.
wow.
I've judged the international championships 9 times. So I would meet friends, and once they found out what we did, they would ask if we would come to their country. So, I've had the privilege of working with the best of the best to, I've landed in Italy, been picked up from a boat, done cheerleading, you know, in parks, at church halls, at leisure centers. I've worked with all ages and stages, and I think that's the best part of what I get to do when I'm traveling and teaching is, we're trying to build the industry from the ground up, share knowledge, create connections, but also empower countries to like build and lead on their own. I think that's so important is, sometimes people will go in and try to be the sole solution, but we really believe in empowering them so that they can build their own countries up and then our sport can get stronger globally.
That's amazing. I mean, that really is amazing because that's you're giving that opportunity to so many people. And I'm saying people because yeah, generally it is a lot of young women or girls, but I love those
But we
co-ed
coach.
teams. There's nothing like the power of when you have the male cheerleaders in there and the strength and the power, it's just spectacular to watch.
Of course, my husband is a co-ed specialist, so obviously he came from a co-ed team. We actually work with some of the best co-ed teams in the world, so we're pretty spoiled in that regard. For myself, obviously I love cheerleading from all participants.
Mhm.
I'm just, for my entire life, like today, I'm in Colombia and we went
Amazing.
to go buy coffee at Juan Valdez, and of
Ah,
course, there's a coffee made by female coffee producers that money raised from it goes to fund female workers in the coffee industry. And my friend looks at me and
cool.
goes, I know which one you're buying. Like, you're just girl power everything. And so I've really, I've loved that component of the sport. But like you, obviously, I have a big appreciation for, in even in the CFL, there's so many phenomenal teams. Like
Oh yeah.
Edmonton has always had such a history of having co-ed. And Montreal at one time had a co-ed team. We've been co-ed. We're hopeful that we'll be co-ed again.
And we see it in
It's still,
Toronto. The Argonauts
yeah,
have co-ed. They
no,
have
you're
both
right. They
the
do
cheer and
now.
dance.
Yes, they do. You're right about that. I almost forgot them. I'm so sorry about that.
I'm waiting for Hamilton to do it. I'm a alumni Hamilton girl. Uh,
Oh,
but I'm
I love
telling you,
that.
it's something that I know it's to me, it enhances the game experience a great deal. I really love it. We're thrilled that you're our honorary member this time. How did you feel when you were approached to be our honorary member?
Well, I think it's hard because, like I said, this is one of many hats that I wear.
Hmm.
And it's the one thing that I do in my life that I'm not entirely responsible for, right? Like I own my own businesses, I coach my own teams, but this is something that I really do at the pleasure of OSEG, the wonderful people with the Ottawa Redblacks. And I look at this as something that we're building for our community, for our city, for our fans. And I just like little me would just be so like I'm gonna get emotional about this, but like like the version of me that was on the sidelines that just loved this so much that I'll be honest with you, I don't even know that I was even good at it. I just loved
I
it.
love
I
it.
practiced so hard. It meant so much to me, so much that I wanted to become a coach and teach it. And so to receive this kind of honor and recognition from, our, you know, organization that represents all of our cheerleading and dance teams within the
Mhm.
CFL is just, I mean, I can't believe that it's happening, and I'm just so grateful. And I hope that it's not just a win for me, but I did mention I have a phenomenal leadership team that I couldn't do
Mhm.
this without. Paul Prose with the Ottawa Redblacks is like my right hand guy, and I could not do this position without him. And so I think when maybe people see me succeed, they need to also look and realize that there are so many layers that have made this moment possible. And,
Mhm.
I'm just lucky to have so many of these wonderful people in my corner.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. And I'm hoping one day when your travels will lead you back to Canada, I hope to meet you in person.
We will for sure. Now we have to have a date at Grey Cup. I don't know
Yes,
if you'll be going this year, but
Winnipeg.
um, it's Winnipeg. We have to go. I feel like we're on the same cycle because my first Grey Cup was in Vancouver, and then we just went again this year. And
Mhm.
then my second Grey Cup was in Winnipeg, and now we're going back. So I'm like,
Wow.
okay. I'm like, we're getting to see all the cities again, but
Isn't it
you know,
fun?
I I wouldn't have it any other way,
Mhm.
honestly. What I love too is that my athletes, some of them don't travel. And as you know, these cheer and dance teams, they fundraise so much to make this
Very
goal
much.
possible. And what I love is we always try to make it a trip beyond just the Grey Cup, right? Like we want them to experience all these regions of Canada, everything that they have to offer, what they're known for. And I just think for young people to, be able to use this vehicle as a way to also see our beautiful country is just another blessing.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you and congratulate you. And we're thrilled to have you as our honorary member.
Thank you so much.